If you've experienced that the clamp that's holding your shower head is not working properly, sliding up and down the pole, the button you're pressing to release it and then locking it in doesn't lock it in at all, chances are there's a metal spring in here that has gotten a lot of water on it, started to rust, broken, so that this doesn't come up as far as it should to make the little rubber part in here lock onto the pole. So the way to fix this is actually quite simple. You either have to replace the metal spring, or you can extend the spring by pulling it further apart. Not a great solution because it will compress over time, but for a quick fix, until you can get a proper spring, it's a good solution. So let's take this apart and see how we can fix it. So most of these are usually based on the same design and the same mechanics inside. There's a screw in here that we need to take out first to start to disassemble this. And here is the part holding it together that just fell off. So we have a screw, we have this that goes on the inside here. Then you have this washer here that on the back has these indents, and these indents lock onto these spring-loaded plastic pieces. You can see one is missing here. Not sure if that's by design, but there's only one. We can take that out, just don't lose that spring. Tiny spring that goes into here, and this goes into here. And then that's spring-loaded, and that locks onto these little divots, holding your shower head in different positions. Now, if this is broken or is worn down, that would explain why the tilt itself is not holding the head up. But here, on this one, the head is actually held up, so it doesn't fall down. But this part here is actually working like it should. So we'll just set those aside for now, like that. We'll put that aside here. So far, so good. Now, the problem with this is that this is supposed to go all the way down so we can release and push this out, like so. But you have these things here blocking the way. So we need to get these off. They have two small clips inside. So we'll just use our screwdriver and gently push those out. Comes loose like this, and then we do that on the other side as well. Nothing broken so far. You see these little clips here. Make sure to not break those. So we're almost where we can pull this out, but this does not go all the way in. Inside here, there's a lot of crud. Now in here where the spring is inside this button here. And that spring, there's a lot of metal crud and crap inside here. So I need to go and rinse this off. Try to get all of it out. So a quick rinse later, and you see all these here rusted, and it was blocking the button. So we couldn't push the button all the way down to release the whole thing from the housing. Let's get this out of the way. Now this moves more freely, so we can now push this all the way down and past the outer housing. This means that we can now push this out like so and pull this out of the housing. You're going to hold this so it doesn't pop out. You can see it's releasing there. Now we're halfway. This does not come out of the opening because it's too big, so we need to get it all the way out. So we need to do this once again, push it all the way in, and then past this, and we're out. So we have an empty housing. Need to clean that out later. Now here we have the whole mechanism, which is this button here, which has a housing holding the spring, and this rubber piece that is gripping onto the pole. So lifting this up, we now have the housing holding the button and the springs, and we can see here, this is just rusted up. Now there's some rust going on here, but it looks good enough for me to extend it. So I can just extend it and use this as is instead of putting in a new one. It won't be as good as buying a new spring, but for now, just making this work again, we should be fine. Another thing to take note of is here, this rubber piece here. This is quite important. You can see how it's wedged like this, and there's a wedge shape where this goes in. So you're not putting this in the wrong way around. Remember, this has to go in the same way. Now, parts of this has been worn down, so we're going to extend it, push it outwards by putting on a small piece of plastic on the inside here, just to make sure it's slightly further out, making it easier for it to grip. Apart from that, this is the housing for the spring and this rubber thingy that holds everything onto the pole. What do we do now? Well, we take the spring and then we use one screwdriver on one end, like so, and another one on this end, and we pull. So we pull it to extend the spring, making it slightly longer so it will work correctly. Now, the way you check that this is the proper length is that right now we're going to insert the part that has been corroded already into the housing so it doesn't get more water on it. Then we take and put it into the housing here. Now, as you can see, without it being pressed down, it's almost flush at the top here. Now, that's good, but not good enough because we want it to be slightly above to give it more pressure. Because here, if we start pushing this down over time, this will not be flush, but it will actually sit underneath and grip. The grip will be worse. We need to make sure that this is proud of the rest of the housing here. As I push it down, it retracts slightly. So I push it down and the side, this pulls that way, opening up so we can slide up and down the pole. And then when you release it, it goes forward, locks it in with the rubber piece. So we need to make sure that this spring here is properly extended far enough for it to stand proud. Again, this is a temporary fix until I can get a proper spring. And you also want to make sure it is straight, because if you bend this, it will catch on the sides here and it will not be as smooth a motion as possible. So that's looking a lot better. We have extended it by a couple of millimeters. So it now stands proud above the top. It goes all the way down, which is important, like all the way here. Because unless it does that, you can't get it into the housing again. So after pushing it several times, it's still a little bit proud, not much, a little bit, which means that we should probably extend it a little bit more. It goes all the way down now. That's good. It stays a little bit proud like that. This should be fine. Now, before I put this into its housing, I will add a small plastic, because we can always take this off later if it turns out to be too much. So cutting it there and twisting this off, we have a perfect piece that fits on the back. Put that in there. It's nice and flat. So this makes sure that this is a slightly more proud, and it will give us better contact with the pole. So let's put everything back together. We put the spring, make sure it hits the little pin at the bottom that keeps it in place. Perfect. This goes all the way down, which is just what we want. So this works great. And we'll take this and we can now insert it into the house, making sure we push it all the way down and in, like so. Onto the final part. There we go. And we now have a button that goes all the way up, making sure this will lock into place properly. Great. So all we have to do then is insert our little pin, locking pin for the rotational. Then we push that in place. We then insert this on the back. You can see it has a couple of pins that will align with the keys on this side. Make sure it locks in. Then we just put the screw in here and tighten everything down. Perfect. There we go. It's a bit too loose. Yeah, we're gonna have to adjust. So that's good. Now the button goes all the way down to release. You adjust it. and lock it in. This should be perfect. So all we have to do then is clip on these final 2 pieces here. So all we have to do is insert these, which will make sure that the fit around the pole is properly spaced. And then the final piece down here, making sure those are on the inside there and pressing it down there. So that took about 20 minutes in real time, and that's all it took to fix this. So now this slides up and down just like it should. I release and it's stuck. It doesn't go anywhere. This is perfect. So there you go. With just a screwdriver, a little patience, a piece of plastic, we now have a fully functioning shower head holder that will lock onto the pole. So that's it, guys. That's how you fix it. The actual mechanism here for rotating the shower head locks in place just like it should. Everything's good. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something useful out of it. Now, even though your shower head holder might not have the exact same mechanism, chances are it's pretty similar. And just open it up, see what's going on, see if there's something you can do to either extend, clean it up, lubricate it, put it back together, and that's 20 minutes instead of going to the store and buying a new one.